Okay.
Hey, Leah, so tell me are you just going to introduce and you want me to pull everyone in that you introduce?
Yeah, as I introduce them, you can pull them into
Medical
the room.
Freedom Panel.
Okay. Perfect.
Several gubernatorial candidates from
That'd be
around the
great.
nation.
All
Only
right.
one from Pennsylvania endorsed. That's me.
Thank you.
So making sure my mic's off. So I was interviewed for an endorsement by the Medical Freedom folks, and happy to let you know that I got it. We'll announce it formally once they post it. But it's fantastic news, and I guess it's just based off of the past couple of years of fighting for freedom. Actually, all my life, most of my adult life. So, and they'll be kicking it off now.
10.
So they'll bring us on one by one, which is good.
Hello, I am Leah Wilson, Executive Director and co-founder of Stand for Health Freedom. At standforhealthfreedom.com, we bring you the resources and tools to take action for your right to make your own health decisions and for your right to care for your children's health. In just 3 years, over 2.5 million actions have been taken through Stand for Health Freedom, directly from voter to political official to elected official. Now we are bringing you the tools and resources to vote for health freedom in 2022.
Erie's in the house.
And I do not think, friends, that I
Cheryl.
can overstate the significance of these elections for our cause, for your health freedom. And that is why today we are speaking with governor candidates from across the
Cheryl,
nation.
good to see you.
And if you care about health
Sorry
freedom,
we didn't get to talk to you and your
and
husband
your family,
Saturday.
it is very important
Deb,
that you
what's
listen
up?
to each of these candidates.
Thanks, Faith.
And prepare to vote for health freedom in your own state. So our team, with the help of our state partners on the ground, we have surveyed and vetted thousands of candidates from across the nation. And we have gotten to know some of these outstanding people that are running for office that place a very high value on health freedom. We have a particular interest, though, in helping you support great candidates for governor, because if the last couple years have highlighted anything for us about the structure of our U.S. government, it is that governors in your state, the governor in your state, has the ability to do one of two things. They can either use their executive powers and to the fullest extent protect families in your state and protect those personal liberty interests, or the governor can do the opposite by simply giving a nod to the CDC.
Thank you, Paula.
Forcing closures, forcing masking, forcing quarantines on healthy students,
Terry,
and ultimately crippling the economy. So
Thank you,
36 governors and governor seats are facing voters in 2022. And with this panel, we are going to bring you 5 outstanding candidates so that you can hear their stories, support them, and then look for candidates like these ones in your own state. The reason that it is important that you tune in and take notes is because the people's candidates only get into office when people like you and your neighbors engage in this process by talking about the races for office, by supporting the campaigns financially and through volunteer work, and by ultimately showing up to vote in the primary election in your state. So you can make a difference and you are needed. So I have the pleasure of introducing our panelists to you before we hear their stories and about their plans for your state. So Mr. Dan Cox, for Maryland governor.
He's a good guy.
Dan is a constitutional lawyer defending the Bill of Rights. He is also a business owner and has been a state lawmaker in Maryland since 2019.
But we need your help too.
As an expert in the Constitution, Dan is running his campaign on a theme of a renewed vision of constitutional leadership. So thank you for joining us, Dan.
Thank you, Leah. It's an honor to be here. And I tell you, it's, as a husband and father of 10 with my lovely bride of 26 years and 17 years of constitutional law and private small business work, we got into the politics to advance freedom. And then little did we know that with these lockdowns that Governor Hogan and my opponent, Kelly Schultz, the Commerce Secretary, would be collaborating with international interests to really
Hey, Bonnie.
create a pressure across the whole country. So that's why we're in the race. It's an honor to be here today.
Thank you. Next panelist is Mr. Joey Gilbert for Nevada Governor. Joey's message to Nevada is, now let me fight for you. Joey is an athlete, business owner, practicing trial attorney, entrepreneur, and community leader. He is a former world-ranked professional prize fighter. He is chairman of the board for America's Frontline Doctors. And in 2021, he was named the best personal injury attorney and owner of Best Law Firm in Reno, helping hundreds of clients fight for justice. So thank you, Joey, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. As my panelists are probably also going to be saying, so I'll be echoing a lot here. I'm a father first. That's my most important job. I'm a lawyer. I'm a businessman. And at the end of the day, it's about protecting these children. My entire platform and number one priority on day one is to take emergency control of our schools. We're 50th in the nation for a decade straight, ending all mandates, of course, and then taking whatever executive orders necessary to restore power to the people. And one thing particularly in my
Mikkel,
wheelhouse now after a year,
they are when they're scheduled.
Year and a half is making sure no one ever interferes with the sacred.
I'm actually live, but I'm muted right now.
I'm looking forward to discussing all these things, but those are my hot button items. And I think Nevada and I think our country is ready for freedom fighters and those that respect, most importantly, medical freedom.
Thank you, Joey. Dr. Scott Jensen from Minnesota Governor is our next panelist.
He's
Dr.
well known.
Jensen is a medical doctor and former Minnesota state
Whoa.
author, champion for medical privacy and the protection of the doctor-patient relationship. Dr. Jensen was a trailblazer over the last few years with uncovering the CDC's errors, especially in how they
Yes,
are
he is a joke,
instructing
John.
doctors to code the death certificates.
All talk
He's a
and blather.
visionary and compelling public speaker that can penetrate the most controversial issues with common sense, understanding, and principle. So thank you, Dr. Jensen, for being with us today.
Leah,
Oh,
thank you.
I'm
It
competing
is my
with Build Back
privilege
Better Biden.
to be with a
That's funny,
distinguished
Lori.
panel of gubernatorial candidates that you've compiled. It's been almost 2 years since I raised my hand and said, "You're asking me to literally corrupt the process by which physicians complete death certificates in Minnesota."
That's funny.
I had no idea.
Well, Mikkel,
what was to come.
I was hard pressed to
I
say
thought
no
that the
to
Department of Health and
the
CDC
early
would
version of
reach
Fox
out
and
to me
Friends.
and
It's
say,
4:30
"Thanks for
yesterday,
pointing that
but
out.
what really
We'll
sucked
fix
is I
this."
drove out to
That's not what
Lehigh
happened. I got
County
guidance
and
from the Department
things
of
didn't
Health,
go
and 2 months later,
as
my license was
planned,
being investigated.
as I was told they
It
would.
was right
So
around that time that Dr.
Anyway.
Simone Gold reached out to me, and we started to realize together
that yesterday
how
was a bit
deeply
rough because we had a
embedded
full day
the
of session.
corruption was. It went on and on. It was modeling. It was fear mongering. It was case counts. It was policies. It was nursing home policies whereby elected officials would literally pipeline active disease into the nursing home, and exactly what you expect would happen did happen, and people died. And then we saw the elected officials denying that it was the fruit of their policies. So I would say this: if we go back to the Declaration of Independence, the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness cannot be had without health.
Oh, Debbie, I was
And that's why
in
Dr.
Cambria a
Benjamin
couple
Rush,
weeks ago. Did you
more than
come?
200 years ago said,
You got to hit us when we're there.
freedom
Chris,
is
Rock
an
Lamar.
absolutely vital and necessary amendment to our Constitution, so that never should we, as citizens of the U.S., have these rights taken away from us.
Thank you, Libby.
And now
We
we've
do
lived
need
through the
prayer.
past
It's going to be
25,
a
26
massive
months,
opposition.
where indeed we have had political bureaucrats and
Yes, Elizabeth.
non-scientific
Dr. Jensen is
scientists
good.
not
He's
following
awesome.
the science, intrude on our lives and
Thank
take
you,
away
Michelle.
our liberties. And Dr. Benjamin Rush warned us of this more than 200 years ago. So it's a pleasure to be on with you so that we can start to dissect these issues and let Americans know just how critical this is, that they cannot
I think
stand
I'm
on the
next.
sidelines. They must get on the field of battle, get bruised
Susie.
and bloodied right along with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Jensen. Our next panelist is Colonel Doug Mastriano for Pennsylvania Governor. Doug is a Pennsylvania state senator and retired U.S. Army colonel and combat veteran. He is an expert in military intelligence and relief operations. After 30 years of active duty, Doug retired from the U.S. Army in November 2017. He is also a prolific writer and has written several bills, including the Medical Freedom Act. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Leah, for putting this on. And what an honor to be here with a distinguished group of governor candidates. All these, imagine what's going to happen when the 5 of us win. I mean, we're going to change the course of history. And as I told you in my interview, after retiring from the Army, I was having a hard time coming to terms with the fact that after 30 years of service, 4 years away from my family, 4 combat tours, 12 years ahead of the country, 12 moves, that I was handing off everything to my son's generation, worse off than how I got it from my dad's generation. My dad was a Navy man. And so I was tempted to ride off into the sunset like so many colonels do, making lots of money and doing fun things. But here I am, to continue the fight. And I just see what happened over the past 2 years. I reflect upon the overreach and the infringement on all our freedoms, including what goes into our body, probably the most important private decision you can make. And we were told by the left that chant "my body, my choice" when they want to kill a baby, but when it's really your body, they don't want to give you a choice. And to think that many service people such as myself were sent to fight for freedoms in faraway places like Iraq and Afghanistan and see our freedoms evaporate. We saw in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has had the dubious honor of having Secretary Levine as our health director. Now, a Woman of the Year and Admiral as well, promoted to the second highest position up at the federal level. But Levine was the first to send the sick out of the hospitals back into the elder care facilities, unleashing a plague, 16,000 dead. And Levine is rewarded for that. If that was a Republican administration, to be held to pay. It's time that we have fighters, people that really care about folks. And so that's why I'm in this race here. This is Pennsylvania. We're the Keystone State, and it's time to restore freedom where it all began in America.
Thank you, Doug. It's a pleasure. And our final panelist is Mr. Mark Thielman for Oregon Governor. Mark is the superintendent of ALC schools in Oregon, where he has a clear track record of serving the people, not the system.
Thanks, Penny.
He kept his schools open throughout the lockdown.
That was my colonel talk.
Without issues with staff or student outbreaks, and really set
who would have known
for schools across
making
the
sure I'm
nation.
muted, that all those
He also has
experiences in the Army would come in handy as your next governor. Never had that planned. God definitely has a sense of humor.
He has been working on policy issues for many years at the state and local level. And Mark is one of the most non-judgmental humans that I have ever personally met, which makes him the perfect candidate to support keeping family and restoring family authority.
I think this cost me $2.
So thank you so much, Mark,
I got a pack of 10. They break pretty
thanks
easy.
for having me, Leah. You know, it's very humbling.
You pay for what you get.
The company of these amazing candidates, and I almost feel like the junior partner because I am I only have 9 children of the 10 that I heard from, and so it sounds like I got some more work to do. And then the other one is that I'm just a lowly school superintendent.
I got fingerprints on it. Sorry, guys.
You know, involved in policy and state politics a little bit.
Thank you, Susie. I'm trying to read it without glasses. That's why I'm squinting.
But Providence wouldn't let me stay behind the scenes, and obviously COVID really exposed.
Denise, what's up? Tell your student that was a cool picture she sent.
One of the bluest there is.
Cindy.
For me, as we have 197 school districts.
So Cindy, we'll be asked questions, the 5 of us. She didn't cut me off. You know, Dr. Jensen did talk long. I didn't want to talk long. Janet, is there anti-ESG or you give a name to it? Legislation. I believe so. It'll be vetoed by the governor. She should still run it, but on day 1 of my administration next year, done. Gone. This Marxist ideas teaching kids to hate each other based off of the level of melatonin on their skin. Ridiculous.
Schools were also asked to, basically falsify a whole host of pieces of data.
It's really alien to me, and anyone, you veterans know this here.
My school open. I took on the governor, and eventually.
You really don't care. You don't care about skin color or somebody's background. All you want, in my case, was soldiers who can get the job done, that are hard work and deliver results. And I don't care who they were. If they delivered results and made things happen, they're getting promoted, and I want them. It's odd being back in a world where people talk so much about race and all that, when in the military, you got each other's back. Each other's backs. So it's a strange world to be in, where
I am running to support our parents.
the folks on the left obsess over, because I think they suffer. It's actually transference. I think they suffer from bigotry and hatred. We see, yes, they do. Look how they treat us when they disagree with us. Like petulant little
No one
kids.
lost their job in the Alsea school system, and I am unvaccinated. I turned in.
I guess I won't talk while that's really loud. So thank you, Christina.
I would not put it past Mark Thielman to find the creative way to make sure that the people are served over in the system. So thank you so much, Mark, for joining us.
That's right, Elizabeth. Only one race, the human
Our
race.
first question to each of our panelists
Okay.
is about what you did during the national, state, local crisis over the last 2 years. COVID-19 created
Here we
a
go.
systematic framework for the expansion of public health through closures, mandates, testing healthy people, and through incentivizing data sharing with state health departments and the federal government. So the 2022 elections we are seeing as a referendum on health freedom, prioritizing healthcare education, parental rights,
Thank
and
you,
choice
Nina.
over medical mandates. And each of you as panelists today have promised to prioritize the welfare of your state through the expansion of individual rights and informed consent. And this priority did not come to you at the start of your race for governor, but your race for governor is simply an extension of that priority. So please share with us today, and please share with your voters, where have you been and what have you done since March of
She got that from
2020
me.
for the people? And we'll start back with you, Mark, all the way on the West Coast. We'll go from west to east on this one. So, Mark, please share with us, where have you been and what have you done since March of 2020?
All right.
Well, in March 2020 in Oregon.
Oh, well, where have I been and what have I done? That's exactly what I say about the other gubernatorial candidates, standing on stage with them and listening to these empty promises and hollow words. When I'm your governor, I promise, I pledge, I will, I shall. It's like, dude, where have you been and what have you done? It's serious. That's why we're ahead in the polls. But look, there's a lot of undecideds out there. I really need your help. And if you haven't volunteered yet, we could use another 100 or so door knockers. We're down to 33 days. 33 days. So just slightly over a month. And that's it. And this is it. And if we don't come out on top on May 17th, there's a lot of undecideds. So if you could go to dougforgov.com, find the volunteer thing, and then please fill it out and volunteer to do door knocking. It's pretty easy. We'll give you an app so you go to Republican houses. This is the primary. The Democrats, independents, unless they change their voter registration to Republican by the 2nd of May, they can't vote for me. So this app will tell you where the Republicans are in your neighborhood. Now, look, you can go to Democrat houses if you know they're conservative folks, and many are, by the way. They're just Democrats. That's what they've always been. Latinos as well, and they share our values. And we're seeing their commitment to the Democrat Party diminishing rapidly because that party has become so radical. But go door to door. You'll have palm cards, and all you'll do is say, hey, the primary's coming up May 17th. Would you consider voting for Doug Mastriano? Here's information on him. That's it. You might have a conversation, or you might not. Today, by noon, we've already had, with our volunteers out in the field, because it was such a nice day, already 250 doors were knocked on, following it on the app. The app is easy to throw down, just like any app is. So please consider volunteering for door knocking. Go to dougforgov.com, DOUG 4 gov.com, and volunteer as a door knocker. Our initial goal is 100,000. We hope to do 250,000, but let's get the 100,000 first. But we sure need help. There's a lot of doors.
What that led to was permission for small school districts to stay open. That was the first accomplishment.
Thank you, Penny. I think I'm reading your name correctly.
That we, achieved. And that was great.
Zandy, what's up?
State of Oregon, made the choice to hold
My Dougisms. Dithering, fantastic. You can't make this stuff up. Somebody compile the list of them.
Because, you know, you always have to push the boundaries. And the reason is when I called and said, can you give me the epidemiology?
His answer is very long. I thought we only had a minute to answer. But, oh well. So I had a meeting with my team at our headquarters in Chambersburg. It's looking pretty good. God has really blessed us with a great team. Thank you, Seth. Love you back, brother. So
we ended up staying open. No outbreak. Government kept trying to close us down. They eventually forced us to close just before Christmas break. And at that point, I had because you're operating K through 12. West side of our state doing that. We got a few in the east side that also want to leave. And
I don't think I'm next. I think Nevada's going to be next. I think they're doing it. I'll be one of the last, either be me or Dan Cox. Dan Cox is running for governor of Maryland. Love Dan. He's a good man. Homeschool family, 10 kids. Just had his 10th kid a couple weeks ago, last month, actually in January, right before our Gettysburg announcement rally. So his wife was home taking care of the baby, and he came with one of his daughters. That was at CPAC, actually. I'm mixing it up. So. Thank you, Dusty, B-Row, Allegheny. It's really important we do well in Allegheny in the general election. Allegheny is becoming increasingly Republican. I think it's pushing 40% now. I think Philly's 20 or 30. I'll say 25. I can't remember. I've been saying 30%. I actually think it's lower. So Philly is always a tough nut to crack for Republicans. If we pick up to 20%, we're good. Allegheny can help us overcome that deficit. He's going really long, and she's not looking happy. It's kind of like, move it along. Let me read these things. B-Rose says, I think we've been Republican Allegheny with the fraud overtakes. Christina. Being part of your campaign is a blessing, meeting so many great people. Yes, that's the thing. Your circle of friends will grow in my campaign. We love you and are fighting with you. Love you back. Thank you. You guys are awesome. Mike says we got to have poll watchers lots. Yes, we do. Zandy says Butler leans left. Over here on my other live, Ruth says nice billboard on 522 in Fulton County near Fort Littleton. That was actually put on by an in-kind gift of folks in Fulton County who raised some money and put that up on their own initiative. Cindy is in Venango voting Doug Mastriano for governor. Thank you. Thank you, Megan. I hope you're doing well too. Praying blessing on you. Hope all's well. Bruce, thanks for checking in. Wow, dude, that's a long answer, man. Ashley Ann, Philadelphia voter here. Ashley, are you a member of my page, Philadelphia County for Doug Mastriano? We're looking for some leaders in Philadelphia County.
There's some aggressive races this year with many candidates.
If you have any recommendations of some go-getters we can have leading our charge in Philadelphia. Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, Nevada's
Where
next.
have you been and what have you done since March of 2020?
Bubba. Okay, so Ashley Ann, go ahead and send a on Facebook when you get a chance. Type in Philadelphia County for Doug Mastriano and send your request in. And once we get off the live here, I'll approve your membership. And you might have too much going on in life to help us out in a significant way. I don't know, but if you're able and willing, we could sure use some help. And if you know any other folks in Philadelphia County that are Republicans and want somebody like me, somebody who loves freedom and wants to make sure your freedoms are protected, please invite them to the page as well. And if you have any recommendations in Philadelphia on some leaders, I'd sure appreciate it. We really need a stronger presence in Philly. So, the old Italian neighborhood there and the Polish neighborhoods, if those folks aren't already Republican, I bet you 90% of what they believe is in line with what we believe. Their party's gone too far left. You think these... So inflation's being driven by two things. One, of course, the federal government is just printing money left and right. But it's also magnified by the spike in energy costs. And that's really the main reason for the spike in 30% increase in costs for fuel and for food. Just you're transporting that stuff, largely in trucks. And if they're on the turnpike, they got to pay for that too. And I like being at the People's Convoy down in Hagerstown land. So, Mikhail, I am meeting with the Asian community tonight, specifically the Chinese community tonight, and getting their endorsement. We're working with the South Asian community as well, the Indian and Pakistani, and I think we'll see some major breakthroughs there as well. And you're right, those communities tend to have conservative values. Jessica says she's met a lot of wonderful Walk Is Free people. Thank you, Susan, for putting the link up there. So my friends in Philly, click the link that Susan just dropped. Dimitri, what's up? Thank you for those cool spurs, man. Love them. I meant to give you a call. Okay, I saw something else on Philly here. Elizabeth says last time the Republican mayor of Philly was 1952. That's when it flipped. Yep. It's been a long time going. Good to see you, Nate. Wow. I guess I can talk long because these guys are going long. Sorry. Kate, forget the camera there. Pike County, Wendy, what's up? Yes, Linda's right. Please do share this to your page and the other pages. That's because the Facebook has clamped down on me since October 16th, 2020. Libby, Uncle Joe, you know what I mean? I miss him. Dennis sent this some stuff. Was that the Convention of States package? I did have a pile of stuff on my desk. Thank you, Linda. I think I'm going to shut the camera off. Bring in Dan, Joey, Doug. I think I'm next. Have to turn it up here.
Health freedom,
Tammy.
medical freedom is our number one priority, because without that,
thank you, Elizabeth. That's a good idea.
Control over our bodies was just simply not American. And one thing I'll point out is you don't see the word mandate anywhere in the Constitution, and I will work hard every day to make sure that every mandate's not just removed, but no future governor can ever pull this kind of nonsense again.
Thank you, Joey. And our next panelist is Dr. Jensen for Minnesota. Where have you been and what have you done since March of 2020?
Oh, well. Oh, well. Thanks, Susie. This will be a long answer, too. Check in with Sheriff Mack of Convention of States. So, Stephanie, I signed up to support that. And I still am. but the concerns of some Second Amendment groups and some of their leaders, we had a hearing to try to get it sorted out to find out if there really is a danger in the convention. Okay, convention of states is 2/3 of the states. The states come together and they call for a constitutional convention, and the goal is to shore up our freedoms, to shore up your Second Amendment, First Amendment, anything else that's under assault, and also maybe streamline the government, add term limits. I don't know, but the goal of the convention of states is, I think, to take some power away from the federal government. I think that's a grand idea. And for the past 2-3 years, I've been a supporter of COS, Convention of States. But several of the Second Amendment groups in the states, in Pennsylvania, are ardently opposed to it. And when we had a hearing, invited groups from both sides of the issue, the ones against it present did a terrible job making their case. It was a lot of what ifs. You know, well, it could become a runaway convention. I'm like, then how can that happen? So they didn't. On this issue here, I'm very open. Some issues like abortion, I'm not going to be moved on that. But if you have ideas on how we can save lives, we can talk about it. This is one issue, though, the Convention of States, that I need more informed people to engage me and discuss it with me, because I received a packet of information that I think Dennis sent it to me. I can't remember who. Anyway, it was very thorough historically. It wasn't a lot of what ifs, on what happened in the convention, a constitutional convention, and what may happen, as we saw what happened there. And I'm still signed up for COS, but I have to have guarantees that it can't become a runaway convention. One retort to that would be on the COS side. I forget who told me this. They said, but Doug, it'll take 35 states to ratify each of the decisions, and that will safeguard if there's any infringement on any rights. That's true. That is true. So you see where I'm kind of, if it becomes a runaway convention, then our Constitution obviously is, and our republic's at stake, because who knows where it can go. We have to assume that the representatives from 35 states, are on the right side. We don't have that many Republican governors, by the way. What do we have, about 30 or so of the 50? We have a slight advantage. I think it's under 30. And the appointment of the folks that would go to the Convention of States, I mean, it's obviously very subjective. Who would pick them? The General Assembly? So to be appointed by a governor? I guess it would depend on states, each state. I think I'm up next. I don't know if he's close to wrapping it up. Okay, Mike. It also says that Congress calls a convention. Can we trust Congress to fix Congress? Mikey, no. No, we can't. So, I mean, that point alone gives me pause. So, I'm not in the middle or on the fence yet. I'm slightly still on the COS side, but this is a tough issue. And I know there's high passions on both sides. I cannot be against it with what ifs. I have to have substantial reasons why I would change my position on it. But as you get more information, it's okay to change a position, but you have to be able to explain it, and explain it before a vote. So anyway, if you're highly informed about Convention of States and you're for or against it, if you have information, send it to my Harrisburg office, and I will look it over, because I got to make my mind up clearly on this here, and see whether the concerns are viable, and it's sounding more and more like they are viable concerns.
Frustrations and anxieties. I started to write, and so I'm glad to share with you, Leah, and to this panel of esteemed colleagues, that next month I'm releasing my second book, and it's called We've Been Played: Exposing the Triad of Tyranny. And what it's about is I'm asking Americans, please
Yes.
look at the world.
Susie says,
that
get
might
involved,
be trying to
volunteer,
create
donate, share on
because
social
the
media, and
triad
pray.
of
Thank
big
you.
pharma and big
So
tech
volunteer,
and
donate,
big government,
share on social media, and pray.
they've come
4
together
ways.
in a way we might never have guessed. They share an agenda that focuses on dollars and control
Oh my
and
goodness.
power. It doesn't focus on the Constitution. It focuses on mandates. It focuses on fear.
Okay.
And to me, one of the most important things that you, Leah, and your organization are doing is trying to get the word out to millions and millions.
Dave Weaver, we need you so bad. This state and country are headed in the wrong
It's
direction.
okay for us to fight back.
Help me get in, brother.
And it's okay for us to
Thank you, Luann.
It's okay for us to get
Patricia, I'm on a Zoom with Medical Freedom. I was endorsed by them. We're on our first question and already a half hour into it, and only 3 of the 5 of us have spoken. So I'm just waiting for my turn. Steve. Okay, I think I'm up
Thank
next.
you, Dr. Jensen. And Senator Doug Mastriano for Pennsylvania governor. Where have you been and what have you done?
Wow, what a crazy time it was, Leah. So, you know, we have all this fear mongering and this propaganda coming out of China, seeing people collapsing in the middle of the street. Now, obviously, I think that was staged. That was ridiculous. But then we're told to brace ourselves in March 2 years ago. I don't know anyone who didn't take it seriously. They're talking Spanish flu. I'm a World War I historian. I got it. And you say Spanish flu, you know, up to maybe 100 million dead. We don't even know. 50 to 100 million is a catastrophe. So we brace ourselves to flatten that curve. And after 2 weeks, we're looking around like, okay. And then my governor kept on moving the goalposts. And we're going to extend it again and again and again. And sadly, in Pennsylvania, our governor at that time had 90-day emergency powers, which he could self-renew. That nobody noticed that was a problem, was a big deal. But anyway, what did I do? So junior senator, less than a year in, and after the flattening curve went by, and we could see that it's really not that bad, especially for people, you know, under 70 and don't have 2 or more comorbidities. All these new words we learned with multiple syllables. And I'm looking around, and very few people cared. And we're busting our rear end and taking calls from across the state. The governor shut down all kinds of businesses, essential, non-essential. How insulting that was. You know, for small business owners, it's not what they do, it's who they are. He says, go ahead and apply for unemployment. The unemployment system could not accept, because of software, small business owners. They were ineligible. It was a catastrophe. So as a result, tens of thousands of phone calls. I'm not exaggerating. From across, people are first calling their senators and reps, and many other senators and reps are enjoying life. They got a paycheck coming in and they're off, you know, zooming in. And I go to work and I'm like, you know, my people and myself are working 18, 20 hours a day, no exaggeration, answering people, messenger, email, taking phone calls, people talking about killing themselves because they don't know if they can feed their families, and talking people off of suicide, helping people during the looting and riots in Philadelphia. And they came to me because we were working. And I go to, when we're in session, I talk to some of my colleagues. You know, some of them were fighting, but not a lot. And I'm like, man, this life is really sucking. You know, we're busting our butt here, working 18, 20 hours a day. And some of my colleagues were like, oh, this is great. I'm with my family. I'm getting in shape. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And so as we're going forward, it was time to start asserting ourselves. The governor comes out and says, you can't gather at all unless it's a state approved event. And Governor Wolf, Tom Wolf, never was a governor more appropriately named. The Wolf is at the door. He came out and said, if we're moving you to yellow phase, you can only gather in groups of 25 or less. If 26 cometh, he shall be smitten down with COVID. And literally the next day after he gave this edict on some of the counties, and one of those counties that was yellow in Harrisburg, Dauphin County, he's at a BLM rally with thousands of people, and the media gives him a free pass. Meanwhile, what did I do? I'm standing with the people. We held the Reopen movement in April. We had 7,000 people show up in Harrisburg. Hardly any masks, no social distancing, very reckless, super spreader event. All these names I was called by these communists in the media. It was hilarious. And people there said, give us our freedoms back. These are God-given freedoms. How dare any governor or president, anyone in power, think they could do this to us? And so we built this Walk as Free People movement. We held rallies throughout the year, had thousands of people show up. I mean, and it was very liberating. I did nightly fireside chats. That's really how this all began. I used to have like 10,000 live viewers until Facebook clamped down on me. And I would go through the latest edicts coming out of the King's Palace in Harrisburg. You know, when you go to the lobby of the restaurant, you must mask up and you dash to that chair. But you sit down in that chair and have food in front of you, magically COVID will pass over you. But if you go to the men's room without a mask on, COVID's going to get you. I mean, that's the kind of crap that we were hearing in Pennsylvania. And so my wife and I developed a bond with the people of Pennsylvania through our fireside chats, just chats, talking through what was, the latest and greatest out of Harrisburg, how to circumvent these rules and how to walk as free people. And as a result of that, we had businesses starting to defy the king's edicts, the king of the Susquehanna River, and started opening up. And when the police came and harassed one barber, we stood with the barber, and the police never bothered him again. When they came and harassed one of my gym owners, me, several senators and reps stood with him, had a press conference, and guess what? They left him alone. And as we stood with the people, we saw a new rise of patriots across the state here. And so we go through the reopen movements. We go through pushing back on the edicts. We have people defying the threats of being fined $10,000 and or losing their liquor license, which is a huge deal in Pennsylvania. That's cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. But people are walking as free men and women, and we finally passed. It was very hard to move the Republican legislator to open bill. We finally passed a reopen bill after months of hard work, and the governor vetoes it. So then we came up with a cunning plan. We did a constitutional amendment, and it was rigged against us because the Secretary of State appointed by the governor put it in the 2 ballot questions in language he didn't understand what you're voting on. And so I'm thinking, how do we spread the word to 13 million people? What 1 and 2 mean? 1 means the governor loses his 3 months of emergency powers down to 3 weeks. And the second one is he can't renew it. He needs us in the General Assembly to have a simple majority. And so on my lives and spreading the word, we're out there, vote yes, yes. And 53% of the people in the nation stood with us. It was fantastic. We're the first state in the nation to take our power back. And so that's what I've been doing ever since. Now, of course, our medical heroes are being assaulted. If you don't get the jab, you lose your job. They were celebrated as heroes last year. The medical professionals, you still are heroes in my book. But of course, if you defy the edicts of the great Oz, you're going to lose your job. And so I have 10 bills in, of course, to protect people at school, to push back on this garbage on vaccinating, the jab for the kids. I mean, it's just out of control. It's really disheartening for me, though, when I hear from colleagues on my side, kind of complain about the freedom movement that I'm leading. I'm sure glad they didn't have social media in the 50s and 60s when the polio shot came out. I'm like, what a stupid, naive, ridiculous statement to make. The polio vaccine began development in 1935. They had 25 years of experiments and changing the mixture. There was some very bad side effects in the early formula. And they finally, after 25 years of scientific observation, observing long-term effects, came up with something that was generally safe for the population. I know it's not one meets all. I know some people still have reactions, but generally safe. But they come out with a vaccine with no understanding of long-term effects, and that's apples and oranges. And so as a result of this and seeing how none of the other gubernatorial candidates lifted a finger in the past 2 years to help us, and as I stand on the stage with these clowns, as governor, I promise, I shall, I will. And that's exactly what I said to you. And I just kind of look at them and said, what have you done? And where have you been? Because if you didn't do anything when we needed you, you're definitely not going to do anything as governor. So that's why we're in it to win it. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you. And finally, Dan Cox for Maryland governor. Where have you been and what have you done?
Thank you, Leah. Everyone can go to my website.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for reminding me of the amendment. I probably wouldn't have thought of it. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Stephen. Ashley. Okay. One of the stray cats outside just had some kittens. Looks like she had 2 kittens. Her name is Sweet Pea. She's a black and white cat. We have too many cats in our house as it is now, so they need a good home once they get. Rebby tried so hard to get a Sweet Pea in the house, but she's friendly until you try to grab her. Oh, gosh, Leah, she's awesome. Yep, the government derives its power from the consent of the people. Matt says same junk in Michigan. Yep, there's 5 governors that acted ridiculous. And Michigan was one, Pennsylvania was another, New York was another, California was another, and I think Jersey. Those are the top 5 for failed policies. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, Patricia, I don't know why medical officers are still masking people up. It's like, stop the madness. Where's Wolf? Yeah, that's right, Libby. I love it. Barnett, not Oz. My daughter-in-law lost her job and got forced out of nursing school. How awful. And they billed her $15,000. And she worked all through 2020. That's ridiculous, Christine. Thank you, Wes. I talked too fast, I think, there. Thank you, Benjamin. Penny. Teach the people to read the state constitution and make the, we need to teach civics in school again. Henry has 3 signs of support for me, 1 on his lawn, 2 in the windows. Thank you. That's fantastic. I appreciate that. Tammy, you're one of my heroes out there. Rachel says there's a few doctors that don't mask you up. Philadelphia is tough. They went back to the masks. That's funny. Okay, some interesting comments here. You got too fast here on this feed. Thank you, Mike. Oh, come on. Thank you, Robert. Stephanie Nicole has religious exemptions. Paula's been following us since the shutdown and the fireside. Brittany did get an exemption. That's great. I thought I saw something about Shanghai. Michael, have you heard about the extreme measures in the Shanghai lockdown? Yes. Those communists are disgusting people. So there's this crap coming out from Fauci. Remember 2 years ago that your pets can have COVID, and they were talking about the first lion that got it, the first cat. What a bunch of bullcrap. And so I'm disgusted by what's going on in China, and that's where the Democrats, they want to head us into a regime like that. In that one video in Shanghai, there was a little corgi dog walking down the road, and when one of those disgusting communist police, beat its head in with 3 whacks from a bat. And then they ordered all the residents to bag up their cats and put them outside in the curb to be killed. I mean, disgusting people, disgusting. It's for the people in Harrisburg, lobby is playing. This is a game for them, this gubernatorial race. It's a big game. And you're going to see some ridiculous hit pieces on me come out. They've already come out. You're going to see, a lot of money in ads being pumped out there. This is our lives and our family.
That our country needs, because the people take back the nation state by state. And one of the ways we see this take back happen is with who we elect into public office. And governors have played an enormous role in mitigating economic and social damage from the nationally declared public emergency. So we need you to get involved and know when your primary elections are, to show up at those primary elections, to commit to sharing the date and the need to be there with your friends. So you can text the letters VHF to 52886 and then scroll down and confirm you are registered to vote and when you need to show up to support candidates like the ones that we have just heard from. So let's welcome a few of our panelists back in to talk about a very important issue, because public health decisions coming from the CDC as recommended,
Mike,
being adopted as mandates locally,
it's disgusting.
has caused a lot of
the left wants to do
unnecessary
that, killing your pets. They even talk about eating your pets. I mean, sick people. How did they get away with? How did they get away with murdering, killing 16,000 elderly in Pennsylvania and getting rewarded for it?
So now we're even seeing the World Health Organization endeavoring to lock in the U.S.
On our side, if I look at somebody cross-eyed, I'm crucified in the media and by the left.
That when an emergency exists, the nation
it's crap, and I'm sick of it. And I hope the people out there are sick of it as well.
It would be a legally binding pandemic treaty for all of its members. And remember, friends, this is a power that the World Health Organization does not yet have. So the people damaged.
High Flyer says Mark Levine's a supporter of Convention of States and has amendments drawn up. All right. He's a constitutionalist. I do respect his opinion.
In your neighborhoods. So Dan, tell us, what do you feel is the role of a governor during a national emergency. And how do you plan to respond to global and federal overreach when you take office as governor?
Well, Leah, as you know, the United States
I'm next.
Constitution, Article 2, Section 2 gives the president power to make treaties, international treaties, but it requires the Senate, a 2/3 of those present in the Senate, to approve of that treaty to make it binding law.
I look tired, huh?
Additionally, though,
I am. I didn't
it
sleep
should
well
not
last
and-
night.
and must not trump Article 4, Sections 1
Henry,
and
we're
2,
extremely
which
sick of
provide full
Dems.
faith and credit to the states, as well as all the rights and privileges
So,
and immunities of
We
citizens.
take our powers back at
Must
the
be
ballot
protected
box.
at all times so that
Never,
international
ever,
treaties cannot
ever
trump them.
violence
And then
at the
finally,
ballot
Article
box.
4, Section 4 gives
You
requirement
got
of
this
the
chance
United
this
States
year.
government that the states
You got a
always
man,
guarantee to
that's
public
proven to be a
and
fighter.
foreign government. So anytime you
I'll
have
say-
an
Considered
international
fearless by
treaty that
some.
might
I don't know about that. I do
usurp
have fears.
and
But
arrogate
somebody
and
who
away
endeavors to
those
try to
powers,
protect your
those
constitutional
should be
freedoms.
removable and void by the
And
courts
I really
and
need
should
you
be
guys.
defied
I need your
by the
help.
governors. The governors have plenary powers over health issues within its state boundaries. And just to kind of set the stage, as you mentioned,
Well,
anybody can go to the World Health Organization's website to look at this treaty, although I'll mention, interestingly, it's down temporarily, they claim. But if you go to the European Union website, you can read the infographics that they're preparing. And one of the things that is horrible, let me just
thank
read
you,
this.
High Flyer.
As part of
I was
its,
out door knocking
prevention
yesterday.
and early detection system,
Thank
they
you.
want a universal
You're my
surveillance,
hero.
of all people and for knowledge sharing. So this means they're going
Henry
to
says people in my
integrate,
circle are excited to
not
vote for
only,
you. Thank you.
individual surveillance capacities, much like China is doing, CCP is doing in China right now. But
Damn.
they're also looking to integrate our medical databases internationally so that they can instantly, have authorities look at
Cheryl.
our health information. This is happening in Maryland. I fought
Tracy.
against this in our legislature. We
There was
killed
some
those
bad
bills
dealing
this
last
year that
night.
would allow greater access.
I went in good
and
faith,
sharing of
and
our
I'm not going to go over it
We
publicly.
also killed a vaccine passport this year in our committees, in our
I,
legislature.
dro-
in Maryland.
I was in
Been on
session.
the front lines of
Didn't know
fighting
how
that.
late it was going to be.
And,
They
I
told
want
me they'd
everybody
be
to know the
flexible
reason why
whenever I got
that
there,
everyone
and
should
then
be
they weren't
concerned,
flexible.
particularly
And I have a
is
real
in
problem with
Maryland,
people, and
why
I got the
they're wanting to stop,
screenshots.
what Kelly Schultz, my opponent,
I
is
refuse to
doing
work with people
with
who
the
lack
World Health
integrity if I don't have to.
Organization and the Global
And
Pandemic
that's
Prevention
unacceptable.
Biodefense Center that's been
It's the
founded
second
with
time
Bill
that's
and
happened
Melinda
to me there,
Gates
by the
and
way.
Secretary Schultz
I'm done.
here in Maryland, in Rockville, and it has. You can
And
go
come to
the
find out that
website,
there was
look
a
at it.
scheme
This is a
going on anyway.
conspiracy theory. It has.
I shouldn't
partners
agree to go in the
such
first
as,
place.
Montgomery County, Maryland.
So when
and
I'm in
also,
session, I'm a senator. I got a
international
job.
as well as,
We voted on
hospitals,
several. We were to go on the transgender sports, which would have we've been debating that till 11 o'clock tonight. That's why I didn't know if I could make it. But we did vote on banning ballot boxes, which was not constitutional.
Right out of Rockville, Maryland, that can.
And we
be
did
utilized not only for
eliminate
this kind of
Zuck
World
box
Health
as well.
Organization monitoring,
Two huge
but
bills.
to continue to instantly oppress.
Well, listen to Dan.
states
He's my friend.
from this partner with the federal government, and so I'm opposed to that. I will, as governor, on day one, issue orders to immediately rescind and stop all mandates health related to protect the individuals from mandates, and any government official or private entity that seeks to impose itself on our medical privacy and our medical freedom, they will be the individuals that receive the fines, very similar to the Governor DeSantis rule. We have to fight against this. We have to stand against this, and I'm leading on that issue. No one else is even talking about this, and it's just scary. It's just shock. People are shocked when I talk about this on the campaign trail about my opponent, a so-called Republican that's doing this alongside Democrats nationally and internationally. People are shocked. They think it's a conspiracy theory and say, no, this is it's a $2
On the bills,
center being built in Rockville.
Zuck's bucks, we passed with a veto-proof majority, 37 votes, only need 34.
Yes, and it takes a
On the
level of
ballot box one,
sophistication
though,
and a strong
only like one,
backbone to fight
only
against
Republicans
federal
voted for
overreach
it, so
to
that'll be
say
vetoed.
it will exercise the plenary power of the state. So it's refreshing to hear you talk about that. Thank you, Dan. And Joey, you have stated never again will we allow our individual liberties to be taken away.
Okay. I don't know what order they're doing it in.
What does state sovereignty mean to you? And what
This guy gave a long answer last time. My wife is a registered Democrat but votes Republican. Please ask her to register as Republican by May 2nd to vote so she can vote for me in the primary. Please. And then she could change back by May 2nd. You could do it online. Google, register to vote Pennsylvania. She does us no good in the primary. She has just Josh Shapiro. There's no one on the Democrat ticket running against him. Thank you, Peach Cobbler. Robin. That's a cool name. So for Pittsburgh needing a sign, if you're on Facebook, go to Allegheny County for Doug Mastriano, and in there, ask for a sign, and my county and regional leaders will get you a big sign. We did get a big shipment in to all the counties, 2,500 yard signs, and I don't know how many 4x8s for each of the 6 districts. We thought that would be our last shipment. I think we're going to have to do one more. Really would not be cool to run out of signs 2 weeks before. They are a bit expensive. We're buying them in bulk, so the price is not that bad, but it's a lot of money, a lot of signs out there. It's a sign. I got to see if this guy's wrapping it up. Yes, High Flyer, please change your affiliation. We have closed primaries in Pennsylvania, and if you can only vote for me in the primary when it really matters if you're Republican. If you don't want to stay Republican after the primary, you can switch back to independent or Democrat, because the general election is wide open. But the primaries, if you're an independent, you get no say in the Democrat candidate or the Republican candidate. So vote for me. You have to be a registered Republican. Simple as that. You can change your affiliation. I convinced a lot of unaffiliated yesterday. Thank you for doing that. We literally have thousands of Democrats and unaffiliated, independents switching to the Republican Party just to vote for me, and that includes from the Latino community and other communities as well. I was at one small event for me, something under 100 people, and at that one event in Harrisburg with the Latinos from Mastriano, 7 people switched to Republican, and I think there's only like 35 people there for that event. So that's a lot. That 12%. I should not do math publicly. Henry says he hasn't seen more signs than what we have out. York County. Wow. That's funny. The Republican county chair endorsed somebody that Trump doesn't like. The dude was running around pitching for his friend. He chose poorly. I might be next. I have to pay attention here.
I'd like to say a red wave, the likes of which they've never seen before, is coming, but it's not just that it's a red wave, it's a freedom wave. It's about God, family, country, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the 10 Commandments, and the Golden Rule. And as many of my panelists, colleagues have just said, it's about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So we will be bringing forward BDRs and bills that I will have a situation where they won't have a 2/3 veto-proof majority. So the governor's veto then becomes the most powerful, tool in the toolbox. And if they want some of their stuff done, if they want to work together, I'm for smart legislation for the people. This is not my campaign; it's our campaign. It's about we the people. So if they want stuff to get put through, then we're going to have to work together. But I'm immediately going to be targeting NRS 414, which is the governor's emergency powers. I'm going to be targeting AB 321, which is the mail-in ballot, universal mail-in ballot bills. And there's other things that have to do with, our schools and the curriculum in our schools. So I think that it's all, you can't discuss, one without discussing the other. What they were able to do those schools by essentially holding our children hostage, we have to make sure that can't happen again, because in Nevada, working with rural counties, I was able to open 8 counties with no restrictions. And then
Really
we brought a
question
sheriff
him.
map and we got 3 constitutional counties. But that didn't stop what they
Thinking
did.
aloud.
And for me as a father with an 11-year-old daughter, what they did to these kids, Nevada.
So it's probably time to get your kids out of public school, unless you think your school's really good. Homeschool, private school, I don't know. I know cost and time's a problem though. If you're a single parent, don't have the money or the time, that's a tough one. We're paying $30 billion a year in our public education system, $19,000 per student, and 1.7 million students. We are being ripped off. We're not getting our investment out of it. Before COVID, we were 12th most expensive in the nation, producing 28th quality student. That's the bottom half of the nation. If we're spending that much money, we should be in the top 10. Okay, man. Yes, Christina, the money to the kids, not the system. And I actually have a bill that does that. And the desire is that reduces, because most of the property tax is for funding of schools in your community, in your county. More than half of it usually is in each jurisdiction. And the goal is, if we attach the money to the students, property taxes should go down remarkably by forcing the schools to streamline and forcing competition.
And I think that, outside of the education concerns and those educational gaps that we are all seeing now, one of the people's biggest concerns is jab or job. So those with the strongest ability to object to the injustice are being filtered out of our workforce, our police force, our military and hospital institutions and educational institutions. So Doug, will you please share with us, where do you stand on private businesses being able to require vaccinations for employees and for patrons? And what is the governor's role in that matter?
Well, and I love Dan Cox. We're neighbors. He's in Maryland. And imagine having a trifecta on the East Coast, Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania, with guys who love the Lord and believe in our Constitution. And Dan is an expert in constitutional law. And as he rightly said, there's special powers that are only designated to the federal government. Anything not specifically delineated in the U.S. Constitution defaults to the states, to the governors. And we have seen what Democrat governors wielding their power, like the great Oz, like Wolf and like Cuomo and like Newsom and Whitmer and the guy in Jersey slips my mind. They act bold and courageous, and they wield their powers, abusively. But it's advancing their. And I don't like their politics, but you do have to admire the tenacity, because it's only us Republicans are asked, will you reach across the aisle? They never asked Nancy Pelosi that. They never asked Joe Biden that. It's always Republicans. We're supposed to be the ones, that bow down and compromise and go to the corner and only come out, when there's something serious going on. And so, but we see some bold governors like in Florida, and that's exactly how each of the 5 of us, I believe, will act and behave on day. Okay, so I'm going to answer your question of businesses by telling you what I'm going to do on day one. Day one, all the mandates are gone. Stroke of a pen. No more mandates. It's over, period. And we'll need these things codified in law. And of course, I'll have to work with the General Assembly. So then when another governor comes in, they can't just remove it. That's the beauty, though, of Governor Wolf wielding his powers unilaterally with executive orders here. That means when I'm governor next year, they're done. They're gone. Just like we saw down in Virginia with Youngkin. Day one, the jab for job requirement is over. It's done. And that will be imposed statewide, including local businesses. You cannot mandate that. That's outside the realm of power. And I will make sure that is enforced. I watched how the bureaucrats in Harrisburg went down with their boots, and harassing small business owners who are just trying to survive. They're harassing a barber, harassing a gym owner, and that's going to end. And On day one, I'm going to reaffirm parental rights, and I do have actually. It would be kind of cool if some of the legislation I signed law, maybe some of my own bills as a governor. That'd be cool. But I have a parental rights bill that's magnificent. It's even better than Florida's. Actually, we looked at Florida's and a couple other states and expanded on it. CRT and ESG and any other indoctrination courses, they're done on day one. And I'll have a Secretary of State in place that loves this country. My secretaries that I'll appoint, and I'm one of the few governors that actually appoints a Secretary of State. That is huge because the Secretary of State on my behalf oversees the conduct and manner of elections. And I have a rock star of voting integrity already picked out. That individual's agreed to it, and it's going to be we have a year to clean up our elections before 2024, and we'll have it cleaned up. Medical freedom, that I have that bill in. I'd love to sign my own bill into law next year, but we'll see. So medical freedom, if it doesn't happen this term, I will work with the General Assembly to codify that in law, that you'd actually choose what goes in your body. In Pennsylvania, we're blessed with a huge Amish and Mennonite community. And the Amish, they have herd immunity. They taught us a lesson. They call us English, the non-Amish. And the English, we have some things to learn from the Amish community. They avoided the jab, and now they're resilient. They have a natural immunity like God gave us, and they're walking as free people. I love them. And by the way, they're huge supporters of me as well. My heartbeat bill, that heartbeat bill will be signed into law. We're going to save babies' lives. There's no more important issue in America right now than the right to life. Just like as everyone discussed, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, life. Ronald Reagan said in his book, Abortion in the Heart of the Nation in 1980, that if we allow this scourge and this plague of abortion to continue, soon we'll respect and regard no life. And you see that what happened with the elderly. And, and these liberal Democrat governors suffered no consequences. Cuomo didn't. He got it for sexual harassment. That was the last thing on the media and the left wing's mind. The same in Pennsylvania. Levine is promoted, celebrated as Woman of the Year, and and a great hero and second most powerful health official in the nation. School choice, that's gonna be a tough fight, but obviously I want to fund the students and not the system. We're spending $30 billion a year in Pennsylvania on education, and we're getting a terrible output. And many of these schools are indoctrinating our kids. But we need bold and courageous leadership. I'm somebody who really doesn't like the wintertime. I actually dread wintertime. Things are bad in Pennsylvania when South Dakota looks like a viable, good alternative, right? So as far as election integrity and a voter ID and teaching civics, and there's so many things we could do. But in the end, it's all about restoring freedom. These rights are given by God, not by a governor. And it sickens to me that I've watched so many people go overseas with me. I've served with many heroes. I'm not a hero. Give their lives or be wounded in action. For new bold leadership. So Republicans, when we're in office, mandate that people give us, bold and courageous, and honor the Constitution, making the most of the time God gives us to save these freedoms. This is our time. This is our hour. This is our moment. We have to act decisively. Otherwise, we're going to lose everything. Thank you.
Yes. Dan, Senator Mastriano referenced your expertise in this matter. So I'd love to hear from you, Dan, on where do you stand on corporate powers to issue mandates on employees and patrons?
Well, I'm firmly opposed to it, and I am a champion of small business and of our private economy. But one of the things that is clear, as the Colonel indicated and made reference to, that our Constitution reserves the powers not only to the states, but to the people under the 10th Amendment. And so we have to remember that our health freedom and our parental rights are paramount. As Senator Mastriano just said, we are made in the Imago Dei, in the image of God. And so what that means is our natural rights and our liberties that are inherent in us because we are created supersede any governor, supersede any law, any mandate of man. And so I'm going to stand opposed to those. I'm going to make sure that our private businesses end those mandates, and any coercion from any international or other entity like we have in Maryland. We've got, for instance, and this is a bipartisan concern. I mean, Senator Ben Cardin is on record opposing the fact the CCP tried to influence and take over the instruction at the University of Maryland. And so we eliminated the CCP funding for what was called the Confucius Institute. However, there's still a CCP-funded institute separately, and it's part of the pharmaceutical research branch at the University of Maryland. So when you look at those kinds of influences, and when you look at the fact that international big pharma has tremendous power. I actually handled a case once in my private practice representing someone who was used to work for big pharma. Discovered that these international companies are bigger than most governments of the world. I mean, literally have hundreds of billions of dollars at their annual disposal. And when you allow small businesses to be bullied by them, it's really not the small businesses that are wanting to capitulate. So we're going to defend and protect our businesses and our parental rights and our family and medical privacy. And we're going to make sure we do that similar to some of the other great governors in the nation that are leading the way.
Yes. And I have a question for Dr. Jensen too on this matter. One of the main, if not the main hurdles, are the corporate interests.
Okie dokie. Well, medical freedom doctor's waiting me. Thank you. You told me your name, Jeanne. You told me how to pronounce it the other day. Thank you, Mrs. Croyle. Cheryl says I need espresso. Sounds good. I'll take an espresso. High Flyer sat next to the Amish at Spooky Nook at our event. A great event in Lancaster. Our event in Mercer County on Saturday was absolutely superb. Wow. So the next rally is the first Saturday in May. It's in Uniontown, over by outside of Pittsburgh, a little bit of drive south of Pittsburgh, 45 minutes, I think. Anyway, and we may do our last rally the Saturday before the vote. So the second Saturday in May in the Philly area. So 2 more chances. The rallies keep on getting better. We had a superb, fantastic, magnificent lineup in Mercer County on Saturday. I was really pleased with the event. It was really wow. So anyway, I do have tonight. I think I mentioned with a group that hopefully I'll win over and be Asians from Mastriano. That'd be fantastic. Vanessa, protect our medical records and freedom. Yes. High Flyer enjoyed the rally at Spooky Nook. It was a blast. Yepper. Christina will be with us in Uniontown in May. Thank you. Stephen had a blast in Mercer County. Ashley Ann. So I have 2. For those of you on here, sent me a friend request and I haven't accepted it. If you send it to the Douglas Mastriano Facebook page, I don't have any room. It's full up. They max it at 5,000. If you go to my alternate page that I had to create a couple months ago when they shut down my own private page for a ridiculous, stupid reason, go to DV Mastriano, Douglas Vincent, DV Mastriano, and I have 1,800 friend slots still open. So I tend not to accept friend requests from people that don't have a profile picture. Many of those are fake accounts. Not all. I know some people just don't put a picture up, but just be advised. And if I don't know you personally, and if we have mutual friends, that helps as well. Because if we don't have any mutual friends, then I want to go. I look into your profile to make sure it's a real account and not somebody somewhere else in the world trying to scam me. I had some person. I think we had one mutual friend accept a request, and it was a Bitcoin scam. And then somebody wrote me saying, "Hey, they're messaging me, wanting me to spend money." I'm like, "Okay, block that person." Bonnie will be with us the 7th of May. It's going to be a blast. Bonnie's a huge supporter. She and her husband have been fantastic. So, Ashley Ann, if you could send that friend request to DV Mastriano, I can't accept it there until I hit my 5,000 friends on that one. Yeah, the Amish are awesome. I'm really grateful and thankful to have a significant amount of support out of the Amish community. So, hopefully they're calling to cancel another event, another interview. I don't think of anything that's on my schedule. I mean, let me check. Sorry, YouTube. I'm going to open up my calendar real quick. Don't know what happens. Because all my other devices are live. I'll be right back, YouTube. Let me know if the screen goes blank or something. Okay, that's weird. Stop. Okay. Nope. I did not have an appointment with that guy. Hopefully he's just calling to confirm Monday's interview. It's Monday night I was supposed to be with Chris Stegall on Facebook. It's not on there anymore. Next week is really crazy. Oh, okay. YouTube, I'm coming back. So what happened while I was gone? Oh, that's cool. Bonnie says I was still on. High flyer. Doug is multitasking. Okay, that's cool. I'm back. Let me see the comments over here on Facebook land. Newsmax, I'll be on Friday, I think. I mean, I can tell you for sure. So YouTube, I'll be back. Next Newsmax hit. I think it's Friday at 3:00, but it's not on my calendar because they want me to authorize the signing in with the authorizations on that live, and I'll lose you guys if I hop off that. Thank you, Mike, for your prayers. Thank you, Patrick. Yes, I'm not a congressman. State senator. One of 50 in Pennsylvania.
So that we never have to do this again. What we've had to live with. I'm going to push that we're going to get photo ID like 46 out of 47 European countries already.
Yes, Robert, thank you. Go to DougForGov.com.
Student choice. But in Minnesota, I think we have to recognize that one of the big issues is safety. If you don't feel safe because of government.
I know a lot of you have been looking for my TV commercials. You'll start seeing those in 2 weeks. We have been very strategic in spending. I'm only one of 2 of the 9 candidates with over $1 million left, and that's still not enough for the plans we have. So if you guys are able to give, please do so. You can go to DougForGov.com to give. I'm so thankful. Bonnie and others have been so generous, and hopefully some of you guys that haven't given yet might consider whatever you can afford, and don't apologize for it. Some of you guys apologize. One guy who works in the mill, and look, he's a hardworking guy and doesn't make a lot of money, but he's given $3,000. He and his wife have given $3,000 very sacrificially, and he's like, I wish he'd give more. Are you kidding? What? Other people, $10 might be, that's it. But please don't give. It's between, giving and eating or buying meds or putting gas in your car.
CDC as the authority in
I
Florida.
gotta listen.
And he worked with Florida Surgeon General to give tools to the Florida Health Department to make their own policy recommendations. He also vowed to defund schools that require masking. So, Mark, I'd like to talk to you about what is the important in holding the line.
Okay. All right, Vanessa, have a good time making dinner. What's cooking? Funny story with that. Yeah, that's funny. High Flyer's asking too. So Mikhail is making a point because TV's expensive social media campaign can be effective if it targets the undecided. So you bring up a very good point. So throughout the past few months, first and second place, first place has usually been me. A couple times Lou's come out ahead. In one of the last debates / forums, Lou pointed out that normally I don't talk about other candidates, and this is nothing negative, but he did make an interesting point. He said, Doug and I are first and second place constantly in the polls, and neither one of us bought TV ads. This is a really interesting statement. I looked over at him, at Lou, and I'm like, dude, I didn't know that. I assumed you'd been buying ads like everyone else. And his campaign really doesn't have the money. He's down like $370,000, I think. That's not enough for 5 weeks. But we do okay. So I will be on TV when it matters, when it counts the most. Some of the campaigns have spent almost $4 million, mostly on TV ads. At least one or two of that on TV ads, and they're still single digit. So I think the dynamics in political races has changed dramatically. It just might be a one-off, maybe in this race in Pennsylvania, but is it because there's so many channels and there's so many things you can watch cable, you can watch, if you still use antennas, and you can still do that with local stations, 800-900 channels on some of those plans. I mean, so it's a shotgun. Okay, so you're gonna put it on, Fox News, Newsmax, and OAN. I don't even know if Fox News and I don't even know if Newsmax and OAN take political commercials, because I don't remember seeing any. But is it just because there's so many choices that it's really hard to reach and target specific voters, or is it more likely that you're going to reach people on the digital side? And I think with the other candidate, I think since he's been doing politics off and on for the past 30 years or so, I think he just generally has name recognition. Our strength has been digital. So when Youngkin won Virginia last November, on that day, I screenshotted his presence on Twitter and Facebook, and I compared it to mine. And I had that's when he won. I mean, he was running statewide in Virginia, Youngkin, and so his presence was pretty good, but it dwarfed compared to mine. And so God has blessed us with a massive reach that he built over the past couple of years, reaching out to the people, their fireside chats, and with our rallies and call to actions. That we're in a different position and situation than all the other candidates. Every month for the past 2 years, I'd reached between 1 and 15 million people. There was one month we reached 15 million people. It was incredible. And but sadly, Facebook has been stepping on the Fighting for Freedom page right here, and they told me that. They sent me a message: "Hey, we're squashing down." That's why in Fighting for Freedom, it's really important that you manually share this page to your wall, as well as to other pages that you sit on. So if you haven't shared yet, please do. But on my Senate page, which is for my official Senate work, not for campaigning, I have 208,000 followers. They got rid of likes, but 208,000 followers. Wow. On my campaign page, I have 103,000 followers, and that's the page that's been oppressed for the past year and a half. And then on Twitter, I have 160,000 on my Senate side for official business, and I have on my campaign side 60,000. And I had 100,000 on the campaign side, but Twitter, after my voting integrity hearing, they canceled my account, and Donald Trump issued a blasting statement about Twitter, doing that to the respected Senator Doug Mastriano, and they Twitter said, "Oh, it was a mistake." But my followers jumped up to 100,000, and then they had the great purge after that, and it went down to 50-some thousand, and they pretty much had me capped at 60-some thousand. It's really hard because I watch my numbers go up and then all of a sudden I drop again. So I look forward to Elon Musk restoring freedom of speech to that platform. It's funny how the lefties are freaking out. So Freedom 777 says, "Keep the antennas, folks." Yeah, right now there's no plans on removing that capability. That's a federal law. So stations locally do have to broadcast, UHF or VHF or whatever it is. or you can get it manually. There's some stunning revelations on our side of the 9 candidates. One of the candidates actually gave money to Obama and Kamala Harris. You might write off the Obama one since there was a lot of excitement for the first African American president, but Kamala Harris in 2019 running against Donald Trump potentially. Some explaining to do there. Nicole, what's up? I think I have your friend. I think we're friends already on DV Mastriano. No, you messaged me. Yeah, that's hilarious, John and Tammy. One of those rodeo clowns called me a career politician. That's just the thing there. 3 years in office, career politician. Stuck it out there, been fighting for you guys, getting slammed by the left while that dude hid out in his nice fancy house with his big income, and then calling me a career politician. And no, I served my country, and he overplays his service, by the way. He did a couple of years in, and that's no problem. But beating his chest like he's Audie Murphy, and 30 years active duty, 30 plus years active duty, commissioned in 1986 as a second lieutenant in the United States Army at 22 years old. And therefore, for perspective, and many of you heard this before, most of my 20s I was in the Army. All of my 30s, active duty. It wasn't something I did on the side. All of my 30s, I was in the Army. All of my 40s, I was in the Army, and part of my 50s, I was in the Army. So no, that would not make me a career politician. That just, anyone that would say something like that is a liar, and please call him out on that. And I'm not going to punch down because the dude is single digits, especially after Donald Trump gave him that gut punch yesterday or 2 days ago. Wow, that was a shockaroo. It's like, there'll be one guy I'm not endorsing in the gubernatorial race in Pennsylvania. It's like, wow, he's done. Yep, that the guy deserved it. Going out there and never deployed to combat, but you wouldn't know that the way he talks. And personally resolved all the looting in Philadelphia. Anyway, silly things. The lack of integrity and honesty, that's being in a political world but not a politician. The worst thing that I've observed at the moment is a lack of integrity and honesty. People will say and do, not everyone, can't say that everyone, but if the overwhelming majority, will say whatever needs to be said to get your vote, and or to lie about, why can't the guy campaign on his own record instead of attacking the only guy, one of the only guys. There was a couple that stood with you, mostly House reps. There's a couple, but one of the few to stand with you in a fight for the freedoms of our state. Dishonest people. Okay, this is a long answer, guy.
To me, this is how far we've gotten away from a healthy relationship with the truth in a government that sees its role as being a facilitator of opportunity and access for all the people, as a protector.
Yeah, Audie Murphy was the most highly decorated soldier in World War II, and he did really struggle with PTSD. He was awarded the Medal of Honor for actions near Colmar, France. Germans were attacking. He was next to a Sherman tank that was on fire. He climbed on a Sherman tank and manned a 30 caliber machine gun on top of the Sherman and engaged the Germans and thwarted their attack. But
critical thinkers, that's the key. People have to learn to think for themselves. And every candidate I've listened to tonight that you have on this panel, very obviously independent, individual, critical thinkers. So anyway, that's my position. That's what people can expect. and that's a little bit about my style of politics. It's a very different kind of politics, I assure you, and it is resonating in high volume here in Oregon.
Thank you, High Flyer.
That's great. And I want to ask Dr. Jensen about his response to this topic. And also, Dr. Jensen, we have seen a wave of minor consent bills sweep the U.S., and we've beat some of those with the help of our boots on the ground through Stand for Health Freedom campaigning and calls to action. But it's not letting up to the rights given to 11-year-olds and 13-year-olds to make their own vaccination decision. So what is your response to what you're hearing from Mr. Thielman, and how do you plan to fortify parental rights?
Well, thank you, Leah, for letting me jump in on this one, because I would just want to say kudos to Mark Thielman's comments. What a refreshing perspective for a talented school administrator to talk about parent rights. But
Okay. Anyway, yes, that was humorous anyway. And that would definitely be a bold-faced lie. And, you know, if I was a career politician, would I have been stripped of my committee chair when I was a day away from issuing subpoenas of the ballots to do a forensic investigation? Would a career politician be kicked out of caucus by that one politician? Would a career politician lose his staff in Harrisburg? No, of course not. This guy, we can't take him seriously. And, you know, there's things I'd like to say, but I would tell you them privately in person. Yeah, as far as the endorsement for Senate, Gil, what's up? Roger. Elizabeth, that's funny. Kathy. As far as the U.S. Senate, I stand with Kathy Barnett. Unwaveringly, without wavering. My opinion on that is I have endorsed Kathy Barnett for Senate. Thank you, Wendy. Rebby and I have known. Yep, Kathy Barnett. Rebby and I have known Kathy Barnett for several years. We met her at a Trump rally, and we were so impressed by her that I invited her to be my keynote speaker at the introduction of the Heartbeat Bill, one of the first pieces of legislation I introduced, by the way. And when I invited her, you know, Rebby actually suggested it. And, you know, Rebby has a good spirit, very discerning, and she thought Kathy would be perfect. And then come to find out, here we are introducing, you know, pro-life legislation. If you hear a heartbeat, you can't abort that baby. That would end abortions after about 6 weeks. That would save probably about 20-some thousand babies in Pennsylvania a year. It's worth it, but we're going for, you know, at conception. All or nothing hasn't gotten us there. It's gotten us nothing. Republicans tried that in 1984 and they failed. They had the chance and they failed. That's for a story for another time. But we had no idea that Kathy's private story that she never shared publicly was a big exclamation point for pro-life. There she was. Her mom got pregnant with her as a result of rape at 11 years old. Thank God that family didn't choose abortion. They chose life. Conceived in rape when her mom was 11. And what an amazing person. And she shared that with so many tears, and she moved the media. We had a lot of articles. We had about 50 articles across the state, maybe more. I can't remember. But about half the articles were actually fair or favorable to us because of what Kathy did. And so, anyway, there's a lot more to her than that. I have an endorsement video on here, 2 minutes long, that lays out why I back her. As far as Teddy Dan, there's a lot of trolls out there, spreading lies, and I am disgusted by those people who say these things about Teddy, who never served a day in their lives. We're told to respect our veterans. I'm finding that in politics, they on our side, many times they respect us in uniform, or us veterans, only when we're ornaments. They'll pat us on the head and thank us for a service here. But when things are going on in the politics, there's disdain for us. And so on some of these pages here, you have so-called Republicans writing, distortions and lies about Teddy Daniels. I'm not even going to address that crap that you guys asked for clarification on. I'm not going to stoop down to that level. So here we have a guy that was a police officer. 9/11 happens. He worked for several departments, by the way. One in Maryland. He's a Pennsylvania man. He got a job in Maryland, and then he came back to PA. And then at some point after 9/11, he left law enforcement and joined the Army at 36, 37 years old. And went infantry. He could have gone, combat support branch. Could have gone, truck driver, something to support. But he went infantry, knowing he's going to find himself sent to Iraq or Afghanistan. And if that's not enough to convince you, and then shot 4 times, in an ambush that his platoon leader, I believe, led them into. I don't have all the details on that. But for the fact is, he was awarded the Purple Heart. I held that Purple Heart. I delivered that Purple Heart on his behalf to Donald Trump in Trump Tower last May. Teddy Daniels is an American hero. And anyone that attacks or criticizes them, they hate veterans. And I don't care. I've dealt with some people here, even on my own page, and we had to remove them from our team. So you're only supporting people who are veterans. And I'm like, I said, so you don't respect people who are veterans? Because that has nothing, his record has nothing, it has everything to do with it. Most of my life, more than half of my life, I'm trying to add it up, more than half of my life, I was in uniform. Clearly, obviously, I'm going to talk about that. We actually have Republicans out there. I wish Doug would stop talking about his military service. Okay, so if you're a business owner, I want you to talk about being a business owner. If you're a nurse or a doctor, don't talk about that. I mean, seriously, does it make you feel uncomfortable? Does it make you feel guilty? I mean, why would someone say that to a veteran, especially a veteran that spent most of his life in uniform? They're going to pay attention. So push back on his attacks and call them out as veteran haters, because that's what they are. I was raised to respect veterans, and at that time there was mostly, I'm not being roped into this yet. I was told to respect veterans, and at that time it was mostly World War II vets. And as a vignette, I've told this story twice before. When I was a janitor, I was working at a large corporation in my union blue uniform, blue collar worker, and there was a guy, Al, I worked with. He was a World War II veteran. He was a Navy frogman, which is a precursor to the modern day SEALs. And in that capacity, he was one of those guys that a submarine would drop off a mile off the beach of Okinawa. He would swim ashore at Okinawa, look at the defenses if there was any, look at the sand to see if it could hold, if armored vehicles could cross the beach, and then find his ride home, the submarine. And then so quite a stud. But he was a radical left-wing Democrat, even for that time. He hated Ronald Reagan. He supported Carter. He supported Mondale. Mondale was a bit wacky politically, and we disagreed very, very much politically. But I never questioned his military record because of his politics. And why do I see Republicans out there questioning Teddy Daniels' record? And they even had me in the past because they disagree with me. So go after my service. So don't let these people get away with that crap. And I could list some names off of who they are. Some of these people were once folks that I thought were friends. Deep in their hearts, they have a disdain for veterans. I don't know where that comes from. They'll pretend on Veterans Day and on Memorial Day to like us. They'll pat us on the head and thank you for your service. They don't mean it. If you mean it, you may disagree with me and Teddy on many issues, but why would you attack our record? bring questions about that. So anyway.
My house was the house that had 10 kids in the trampoline and eating out of house and home. I was sending staff to Costco twice a week. And not one time did I see these kids sick. And I'm saying, get sick. And the moms actually spit this out by June 2020. They were the ones saying, listen, we've been around sick kids our whole lives. This is ridiculous. And so hands off, to the mama bears and to the mothers.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate it.
Right now, if it wasn't for these moms,
thank you, Henry.
long before the guys did.
Henry plans on donating to the campaign. Only the second time I ever did this. First was Trump. Thank you. Go to DougForGov.com and you can give online. Thank you. Any amount matters. We probably need another. We still are short a couple $100,000 to achieve all our ends. But Fred is right. No one is sincere to vets. Well, some people really are, and many of folks on here are. But those that attack and question my policies or things we disagree on. But why would you? Because you disagree with me on an issue. Why would you attack me or Teddy's record? So his service, not his record. Anyway, God is good. Thank you for tuning in, friends. Hopefully, I'll have one more input here on this, and then we'll press on.
One of our favorite experts in privacy, Twyla Bray, says, "He who holds the data rules." So it's an important thing to remember when
Sharon sees my signs all over Manheim and Elizabethtown.
And Doug, I'd love to ask you, how has the military shaped your value for privacy?
Well, it's interesting that obviously I had no idea that so much of my military experience would come to play, as a senator. And when the shutdown happened, actually, we're trained in emergency operations. So when the shutdown happened, I knew instantly many of the things that Tom Wolf should have thought through, which he didn't do. Like when he put an extra 2 million people on the unemployment compensation forms, he did not expand. He should expand it by 100 people overnight. Folks working in the UC, Unemployment Compensation Office. He kept his hours for 3 at 8 to 8. And I'm like, you needed 24/7 operations. And here I was, the junior senator, telling him how to run operations. And he didn't listen. Took some months. And after the thing collapsed and people were, not being able to feed their kids, finally, he paid attention to these things here. As far as privacy and your freedoms, for me, this is no joke. And, I put my hand on that Constitution 8 times in uniform, twice as a senator. And these things are very sacred to me, these constitutional freedoms. I see how rare a constitutional republic is around the world. I've served, so I supported the mission in the Balkans, in Bosnia and Kosovo, served in Iraq, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and Afghanistan, and, visited about 30 countries around the world here. And we have the greatest country in the face of the earth. And I had no idea, Leah, how fragile our freedoms really were. I assumed that these God-given rights here to be upheld and honored, but we have, the Democrat Party has gone radical. They have left any semblance of the old way it used to be. And sadly, many people, in the Rust Belt portion of our state are still Democrat, but we had a petition drive last month to get on the ballot. There's required 2,000 signatures to get on as a governor. My people around the state gathered 29,000 signatures, which is a record for a Republican. And during that petition time, they converted thousands of Democrats to Republican, because this is a closed primary. You have to be a Republican to vote for me. And so we're seeing a shift here. But as far as people's privacy and your basic freedoms here, these are sacred things that are no joke. Literally, men and women across the past several centuries have given their lives to protect these basic elements of your freedoms, your basic privacy. And that we have governors so willy-nilly willing to yield their power for evil is sickening to me. And I think in some way, many of us, and I'm the conservative side, are a part of the problem, because when you talk about the condition of our country, oftentimes you'll hear, at church and elsewhere, well, that's a sign of the end times. It's God's will. And I'm like, what a cowardly, weak thing to say. So basically, you're washing your hands of the situation. Say, there's nothing I'm going to do about it. There's a situation we see in Esther where Mordecai is writing letters. Her cousin is writing letters to her, and basically says, "Don't think, Esther, because you're in this palace, you'll escape. There's a plot to kill the Jewish people, of which she was one. You and your family will die, but God will raise up a deliverer from elsewhere." Okay, so that's the question. Where is that deliverer? Will it be instantly? I don't think so, because in 1934 there was a deliverer for Germany. His name was General von Schleicher. He could have stopped Hitler. It was the last great hope to save the Weimar Republic and stop Hitler. Hitler knew that. Schleicher had his Esther moment and he chickened out, and Hitler had him assassinated a few weeks later. So God raised from elsewhere. It's called the United States Army. It was going to take us 10 years to get there. So in that interlude, because Schleicher lost his chance, his opportunity, we have 6 million dead Jewish people and many other millions dead around the world here. So it's essential that we get together. So people around the nation watching this, you see these excellent candidates out there. We can't do it on our own. We need you to volunteer. We need you to donate. We need you to spread the word of mouth, because the establishment is against us. The media despises us. I saw what Dr. Jensen went through the past 2 years here. Obviously, I've taken on the chin as well as for my stand, as well as everyone else on here. So we need to overcome the establishment and their lies and the propaganda out of the media here, and work hard to get people like us elected in office. And could you imagine all 5 of us win? This will change the course of the nation. It's a huge deal.
That's right. Yes, and I remember Joey and I talking a few weeks ago, and he referenced this statement again in our conversation today. He said, it's not going to be a red wave. We're going to see a freedom wave. And Joey, what do you have to say to the undecided voters on who they will vote for? Because just as Senator Mastriano just referenced, there are people changing their political affiliations because they want to vote based on values. So what do you have to say to those undecided voters today?
I say come on in. The tent is very welcoming. Never did I imagine. First of all, this was never on my bucket list. I'm a son of a Marine. My father, as I said before, I grew up in a very different. I was in the Air National Guard, the Air Force, which my father always reminds me doesn't count, because he says we just gave them rides, and so I always enjoy that. But we're seeing independents and nonpartisans and Democrats that never thought they would have their medical freedoms, their children forced into mass. Parental rights to me is probably one of the biggest things. And no one should be making medical decisions for your children besides the parents. By that same token, or in that same vein, the same thing goes for curriculum. And you've got a lot. And these are 80% issues. And I'm very mindful, as someone that has 50% of my staff are Latino, 50% of my clients are Latino. And when you poll these folks, you'll see that the top 3 things you're hearing right now are the economy, which is also dealing with the restrictions and the COVID mandates. You'll hear schools and you'll hear crime. And so it's very simple. What's happened at that southern border is a disgrace. What happened with Afghanistan is a disgrace. What happened with forcing the vaccine on our military members and affecting military readiness is a disgrace. And I've said this publicly. I'm not afraid to say it again. Biden should be charged with treason. What's happened across this country is absolutely unacceptable. And there's many.
I'll be back on. I just typed it if I can jump back in.
And what we're going to see is them coming in and wanting to be a part of something. And I continually say, this is no longer a Republican or Democrat thing. This is an American thing. This is truly about our constitutional republic. And when you see what these parents have been through this last year, I took the brunt of it because I happen to be in a very well known person in this town as an attorney with billboards and places. So people wanted to come somewhere. So it wasn't uncommon for me to show up to my office and have 25 parents outside the front door, and they were from every background you can imagine. And now, as we're seeing, I'm speaking to union members every day, organized labor, and they had it. Like they said to me, we're no longer voting down that ticket. They're usually given a piece of paper, and they just go down it. They vote as told, and they said we're not doing that anymore because we were told deliver Biden Harris, and all these things would happen, and none of it happened. So again, I say to people, look. This is about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if God, family, country, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. And when you think about it like that, you bring everybody in. And there's other things, and as Ronald Reagan said, those people that I disagree with 20% of the time are now my enemies. We have so many people now that are all thinking like this, and we don't need to focus on the others. We need to focus on this big, group that we can work together with. And so I constantly remind these guys, men and women. Moms and dads from across this country and across this state, look, come on board. You're going to have to register Republican in Nevada because we have a closed primary state, but you're going to have to get in this fight with us right now because we only change this together. And I'll also say this: it's also the first time where everyday folks have realized the difference they can make. So people always ask me every day, Joey, what can I do? Well, I said to them, start showing up to these school board meetings, start showing up to these county commission meetings, start showing up to these health board meetings in city county. And they started doing it. And we're starting to see the changes. We've recalled school board members. We're recalling county commissioners. We're removing these trustees. And so this is what it's going to take. And I just tell everybody, this is about America. It's about our constitutional
Thank you, Freedom Press.
Constitutional rights. And if you care about those things, you care about freedom and wanting to make the choices for yourself and your family, then you have only one choice. And I love Aaron Lewis, who's an artist. He had me on stage with him, and he said, it was very funny, but he said, so to my independent friends out there, and he goes, we're in a place right now in America. He said, pick a flipping side. And it was awesome. He said, the way he said it though, because it's true. It's time now to get behind those of us that believe in freedom.
Thank you. I'm glad you're
believe in
involved.
parental rights, believe in letting you make the decisions for your family yourself. And I think if we think like that and we champion that message, we will have enough votes to come in and overcome some of the nonsense we know is going to be coming, because they're still going to play games. But I think we can bring in enough people under our tent to overcome anything.
Yes. And Mark, I know that you also are in a closed primary state where people have to declare their party in order to vote for you as the governor in the primary.
Dang it. It skipped me. Oh, well. So, anyways, that's that. We should be wrapping up shortly. Gil says his 88-year-old dad and 90-year-old mom both switched their party to vote for me. That is huge. Whew. Happy Easter, T. Bishop. Happy Resurrection Day. So tonight is Monday, Thursday. On this night back in 33 AD or so, Jesus would be arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane. Probably about this time, actually, since Israel's 7 hours ahead of us, probably roughly about this time, Israeli time. Maybe it's a little past that by now. But he'll be dragged before Herod and the high priest first, and then Herod, I think, and getting beat up all that whole time. And of course, we'll eventually take him on Good Friday to Pontius Pilate, and who will decide, as a political expeditious thing, to have Jesus crucified, although he did no wrong. And then, of course, the most important day in history is the resurrection of Jesus Christ on Easter Sunday, as we call it, Resurrection Day. I do like how some of the old churches, like the Orthodox, you greet each other with "He is risen," and the response is "He is risen indeed." I think that's fantastic. Wow. Says I only see 4 of us left. I think one of the candidates hopped off. Let me turn it back up so I can hear what's going on.
Constitution has to pervade. We have 2 ways to express ourselves short of our speech. One is the things we purchase with our money, and the other is our vote. And we have a high degree of people here in Oregon that don't value either of those things.
So we have the endorsed candidates in Pennsylvania. One, me, on this medical freedom endorsement.
2014,
one from Minnesota, Dr. Jansen.
We didn't have health authority.
One from Oregon, one from Nevada, and Dan Cox from Maryland.
Give any of your health surveys in my school.
It's quite a big deal to have this organization endorse us.
Man, did that go around? I was in multiple meetings, and I had state legislators contacting me. What are you doing?
Yep, exactly, Mikhail.
These questions.
Pilate's response to Jesus, when Jesus said, "I am the truth," he goes, "What is truth?" And then he walked away. Why did he stay to get an answer from Jesus on that? Relativism, you say? Yep. That is corrupting.
So when COVID hit, we were the only school district that the health department in Oregon didn't have any.
Happy Resurrection Day. GRLdesigns.com sees more and more of my signs on lawns. That's great.
And I became the one who spoke directly to families and
He is risen
regarding
indeed.
decisions
Megan,
about
you
COVID
doing all right there,
policy
sister?
here in Oregon. And yet that was one of the reasons we were able to outmaneuver the government. And all of that was predicated on my deep-seated belief that individual rights, parents' rights, those concepts of the Bill of Rights are sacrosanct, and they exist because the founders recognized that they pre-exist government, and they cannot be violated. So, in my school district, we never adopted critical race theory. One of the only ones in the state of Oregon. I never implemented comprehensive sex education. And when people came to scream at me, I said, well, but the neighboring district did, and all their board meetings are blown up, and they've lost, 12% of their student enrollment, and that doesn't make for a nice school. Here in LC, we have continued diversity, no judgment, and high acceptance in the school culture. Now, how do you do that? See, you do that by telling people the truth and then modeling the high values that our Constitution provides. And that is incumbent upon us. Not only do all five of us need to win, but when we win, we need to move the entire nation.
Mark,
We can
I
do
don't
that
know.
through a coalition of states.
Thank you.
And Governor DeSantis
He's asking me when I
has
sleep.
probably been,
Don't get much.
the lead.
Henry says, how can we advertise on your cars? We have magnetic stickers, whatever you call them, magnetic signs. They're available at our events.
That's really how we need to do it.
Yes, and what a beautiful illustration of withholding data and then staying in charge at a more local and intimate level.
Whoa,
where you have the caring
Philippines.
concern
Wow.
of those in your community in mind.
Hope your sister's
So,
waiting for me.
Dan, I want to ask you before we come to a close, do you have any response to what you've heard about the protection of privacy or parental rights in the state of Maryland?
Well, yes, thanks, Leah. And my colleagues are just hitting the mark, and I'm just so honored to be part of this. But I can tell you, one of the things that I have been bombarded with during the lockdowns,
That's
from
funny.
parents especially, is what do I
Thanks,
do?
Gil.
when my
Gil has
kid
4
can't
magnets for his
participate in
new
sports
truck.
without disclosure
Oh,
of their
yeah.
back status or disclosure of, their
Gil has been a
health
huge
records,
support.
that these
Actually,
are
past couple of
protected
years.
information. And,
Remember, Gil donated
one of the things I
to
like
my
to tell
church
people
a
is
bunch
that
of
if someone's
you know,
asking you
meal cards for
something
poor in our
or
community.
signature,
Drove all the way from
it means
Allentown to
they
do
don't
that
have
too.
authority
Amazing.
to have that information
Was it
unless
for
you
Thanksgiving 2 years
volunteer to
ago?
give it. So if they're manipulating you or in some way trying to
So you get all the Gucci stuff at our rallies or my events. And so go to dougforgov.com to see where I am.
And obviously this isn't legal advice, but
And
in
come on
Maryland, we
out
have civil rights. It's called
and
Citizens
take
of
what you
America.
need.
And so we have a legal process that they can file complaints against these entities and name the individuals that are mandating this. And I've had coaches back down, that just said, okay, I'm not going to require this anymore. And we've seen this happen. It's an unconscionable thing. But one of the things that we did in the legislature is they're constantly trying to get access to information. I'll give you 3 quick examples. First was by cameras. We discovered in my committee that a Beijing-based organization is trying to do facial recognition.
Oh, yes. And thank you, Peach Cobbler. Also, if you can't make it to my events, so we can't be everywhere. We're trying. But go to your county page, Armstrong County for Doug Mastriano, Lackawanna County for Doug Mastriano. Join the page and then ask the people on there, hey, here's the supplies I need. I need 100 palm cards, 5 signs, a couple magnets, what else you got? And throw in some shirts to boot. Now, the shirts we do ask for a donation for. So, we have a team in every county. All 67 counties are manned and operated. Yeah, what's up with all the pancreas surgeries? I agree, it's PJ. That's sorry to hear that, man. PJ's a huge blessing and support too. So Patrick, the shirts will have to come at an event though, since we do charge for those. Well, we ask donations for them.
Sharing everyone's back status, and they've developed something called myirmobile.com, which is a QR code that
Gil, that's messed up.
and all your
Kathy in Fayette County.
Talking about it as a passport, we did that, but unfortunately the app is still
Kellyanne got a sign last night. Good.
and her
Good.
just came out of,
Julie, quoting Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That was my high school county yearbook quote.
for the so-called future.
Clearfield County going red for Doug. Oh, yeah.
Parents are the ones in charge of their data. If anybody's asking for it, stand against it. Yes, I've had some clients in my private practice that have unfortunately their kids have not been able to do certain sports because of the refusal.
Patrick will see me in Lewisburg on the 26th of April.
And so I think
Yeah,
parents should
Jensen
stand up,
is a rock star.
rights, and let
Cambria County in the house.
And you can go to coxforfreedom.com. I'm asking for your support.
Yes, absolutely. And as we come to a close, I would love to hear the 30-second version of each of your first day in office. And we will definitely be sure to repost your websites for people to be able to support you. So we'll start with you, Joey, on your 30-second version of your first day in office and how to find you.
Dude,
You're muted, Joey.
come on, man.
Sorry, guys.
That's
I
okay.
just say very simply, on day one, I would take emergency control of our school system. I would be ending all mandates on day one. Take whatever executive actions I can to restore power to the people in regards to elections, health freedom, mandates of any type, doctors, and what they can do, parental rights, crime by untying our officers' hands and removing political DAs and judges, and immediately be calling a special session. I would just say simply go to gilbertforgovernor.com on that. You can learn more.
Thank you, Joey Gilbert for Nevada. Dr. Scott Jensen, let us know your 30-second version of day one.
Day one is we're going to be getting to work right away so that we can pass within the first 100 days. Stand your ground, constitutional carry, Castle Doctrine. We're going to pass school choice. We're going to have photo ID. And we are going to rewrite emergency powers so never again do Minnesotans have to live under emperor. But we're also going to use the bully pulpit from day one to remind Minnesotans that they can think for themselves, that they don't have to beg for trust. Their elected officials should be trusting them. This has been turned upside down, and this should never happen again. Our website is drscottjensen.com. I think ideally,
Most of the guys are. The first guy kept it at 30 seconds.
Transparent opportunity.
I'll try.
For voters to get to know.
I try to be disciplined.
The candidate who's running for elected office. And so that's what we're going to do on day one. And I do have to run. I just want to say God bless you for the work you do and for your organization. You are a rock star.
Thank you, Dr. Jensen. Blessings to you and your campaign. We'll be in touch. Senator Mastriano, what does day one in office for you look like?
Well, the motto for our campaign, it's on all our campaign signs, is John 8:36. If Jesus sets you free, you're free indeed. It's a freedom movement. So it's all about restoring our freedoms, rebuilding families, and reviving the economy. And how we do that, of course, is striking down immediately on day one any mandates, job requirements, restoring parental rights on day one, and banning indoctrination in our schools in the form of CRT, ESG, and anything else. It's about restoring medical freedom, personal freedom, and protecting life at all levels. And that includes the heartbeat bill and protecting babies. Bold and courageous leadership here to require voter ID. That will happen, as well as teaching kids in school civics. And most importantly, school choice. The money goes to the kids, not to the system. I look forward to making Pennsylvania the most great state and the most powerful state again in the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mastriano. And Mark Thielman for
the greatest.
For me, kind of similar. We're going to take some executive actions right away. Obviously, take
The most great state. Okay, the greatest state. No, this is not a debate. There's just medical freedom community has endorsed 5 candidates for governor of 5 different states, and I am their only endorsed candidate in Pennsylvania. We have Dan Cox from Maryland. We have Dr. Jensen from Minnesota. We have Joey Gilbert from Nevada. We have Mark Thyman over in Oregon. All gubernatorial candidates and the endorsed candidates for medical freedom. So that's that. Dr. Jensen just hopped off. I think I need to hop off too, actually. So thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great night. I think this 2-hour long broadcast here, I think we'll cover for our live. Thank you guys. I do appreciate y'all tuning in. Whew, the most greatest state. That could be another Dougism. Don't want to sound too much like 45, right? So I shifted, make Pennsylvania great again. I was like, nah. The most great state. I love it. Oh, well. You know, I have a PhD. You could never tell, though, could you? See you guys. Okay, done with.